You can't step into a new year with old chains on your soul. I know what this season feels like. The quiet nights where you replay conversations you should have walked away from. The goals that almost happened. The prayers you whispered didn't get answered the way you hoped. You're not weak for feeling heavy. You're human. But hear me clearly now. You were never meant to drag yesterday into tomorrow. Let me walk with you through this moment. 7 lessons, 7 steps forward. Not to erase 2025, but to release it. Some endings don't come with a goodbye. They don't come with honesty. They don't come with accountability. They just stop. And that is where most people get trapped. Waiting, replaying, hoping for a message, an explanation, an apology that will finally make the pain make sense. I've been there. I've waited for words that never came. I've told myself if they just admit it, if they just say sorry, then I can move on. But here is the quiet truth I learned through tears and prayer and long nights of reflection. Closure is not something you receive. It's something you decide. When you hand your healing over to someone else's behavior, you give them power they don't deserve. You let their silence control your peace. You let their inability to face themselves keep you stuck in yesterday. And that is too high a price to pay. Some people will never understand the damage they caused. Some people are incapable of the depth you expected from them. Not because you asked for too much, but because they were never equipped to give more. And that realization hurts deeply. But it also frees you, because closure isn't about them suddenly becoming better humans. It's about you becoming brave enough to stop waiting. There comes a moment when you have to look at your life and ask yourself, how long am I going to keep bleeding for someone who isn't even looking back? You don't heal by winning imaginary arguments in your head. You don't heal by explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to listen. You heal when you choose peace over proof. Closure is the moment you say, I may never get the answers, but I refuse to let unanswered questions define my future. It's choosing to stop reopening wounds just to check if they still hurt. They do and they will until you let them close. Faith taught me this lesson gently, then firmly. God doesn't always remove people with explanations. Sometimes He removes them with lessons. And not every lesson needs a conversation. Some lessons just need acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means surrender. Surrendering the need to be understood. Surrendering the need to be validated. Surrendering the hope that the past will suddenly rewrite itself. Because the past already did its job. It shaped you. It strengthened you. And now it's asking to be released. You don't owe anyone access to your future just because they were part of your past. And you certainly don't owe your peace to people who disrupted it. There is power in saying, I loved with honesty. I tried with integrity. I walked away with dignity. That is closure. Not a conversation. Not a confession, not an apology, a decision. A decision to stop shrinking your life around someone else's inability to show up. A decision to stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours to hold. A decision to trust that what left had to leave so something better could arrive. Sometimes the most self-respecting thing you can do is close the door quietly and walk forward without looking back. No announcement, no bitterness, no revenge, just peace. And when you make that decision, when you finally choose closure, you don't just end a chapter, you reclaim your power, and that power, that peace, that clarity, what broke you last year didn't arrive with permission. It didn't knock gently. It didn't ask if you were ready. It came suddenly. It shook your foundation. And for a moment, it made you question everything you thought you were, your strength, your faith, your worth. I know that feeling when life humbles you so deeply that you confuse humility with failure. When you look at yourself and wonder, how did I end up here? When the version of you that felt so sure suddenly feels fragile. But let me tell you something I had to learn slowly, painfully, honestly. Breaking is not the same as being broken. What hurt you was not designed to erase you. It was designed to expose what was real. Pain has a way of pulling off masks you didn't even know you were wearing. It removes the applause. It removes the distractions. It removes the people who were only there for the good days. And what remains is the truth. The truth about your resilience. The truth about your boundaries. The truth about your faith when things don't go according to plan. You see, when everything is working, it's easy to believe in yourself. It's easy to trust God. It's easy to feel strong. But when things fall apart, that's when character speaks. That's when faith either deepens or disappears. That's when you meet yourself without filters. And maybe 2025 stripped you down. Maybe it took away something you prayed to keep. Maybe it forced you to start over when you were already tired. But listen to me, starting over is not starting from nothing. You're starting from experience, from wisdom, from scars that prove you survived what could have destroyed you. Some losses are not punishments. They are redirections. Some heartbreaks are not endings. They are awakenings. You didn't lose your way. You lost what was weighing you down. What broke you revealed what mattered. It showed you who stayed when it wasn't convenient. It showed you how strong you could be when you had no choice but to be strong. And yes, it hurt. Growth always does. But humility is not humiliation. Humility is clarity. It's the moment you realize you don't need to control everything to be okay. It's the moment you stop performing and start becoming. It's the moment you let go of ego and lean into purpose. Faith teaches us that storms don't come to drown us, they come to teach us how to walk on water. And you did, even when you were scared, even when you doubted, even when you cried in silence, you kept going. So don't look at your past year with shame. Look at it with reverence. That pain shaped you into someone deeper, more grounded, more discerning. You don't chase validation the same way anymore. You don't beg for love that doesn't feel safe. You don't settle for half-truths or half-efforts. That's growth. What broke you taught you what peace really costs and what it's worth. It taught you that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's just quiet endurance. And if you're standing here now, still breathing, still hoping, then the breaking didn't win. You did. Carry that truth with you, not as a wound, but as wisdom, because the next chapter of your life doesn't need the old version of you. It needs the one who was forged in fire and chose to rise anyway. There is a weight that doesn't show up on your shoulders, but it bends your spirit every single day. It's the weight of resentment, the quiet anger you carry into new rooms. The memories that rise without permission, the injustice that never got corrected, and for a long time, you convince yourself that holding on makes you strong, that remembering protects you, that forgiving means losing. I believed that too. I thought if I stayed angry, I stayed powerful. If I kept the pain alive, I stayed alert. If I never forgave, I stayed in control. But the truth is, holding on didn't make me strong. It made me tired. Resentment is exhausting. It drains your joy. It steals your focus. It keeps your heart locked in a moment that has already passed. And the hardest part, the person who hurt you is often already living freely, laughing, moving on, unaware of the storm they left behind, while you're still carrying the weight. Forgiveness is not what we think it is. It's not approved. It's not forgetting. It's not pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is choosing not to let pain have the final word. It's saying, what happened to me matters, but it will not master me. I had to learn that forgiveness is not a gift you give someone else. It's a release you give yourself, because every time you replay the hurt, Every time you rehearse the betrayal, every time you imagine what you should have said, you reopen the wound, and wounds don't heal when they're constantly touched. Faith taught me something powerful here. Healing doesn't come from holding tighter, it comes from letting go. God heals what we release, not what we relive. There are people who will never apologize. There are wounds that will never be acknowledged. There are stories where you will never be understood. If your peace depends on their awareness, you will never be free. Forgiveness is the moment you decide, I will not bleed forever. It's when you choose to stop letting yesterday interrupt today. It's when you refuse to carry poison in your heart and call it protection. And no, forgiveness doesn't mean you invite them back into your life. It doesn't mean access is restored. It doesn't mean boundaries disappear. You can forgive and still walk away. You can forgive and still choose distance. You can forgive and still protect your heart. Forgiveness is internal. Trust is earned. There's a difference. Some people confuse forgiveness with weakness, but forgiveness requires courage. It takes strength to put the burden down. It takes faith to believe that justice doesn't always have to come through you. When you forgive, you are not saying, they were right. You are saying, I choose to be light, light enough to love again, light enough to hope again, light enough to walk into a new year without dragging old pain behind you, because resentment keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. Forgiveness sets you free from them. And maybe today, forgiveness feels impossible. Maybe the wound is still open. Maybe the memory still stings. That's okay. Forgiveness is not always a moment. Sometimes it's practice. You choose it again and again and again until one day you realize the pain no longer controls your breath. The memory no longer steals your peace. The past no longer defines your posture. That's when you know healing has begun. So don't forgive because they deserve it. Forgive because you deserve peace. Forgive because your future needs room to breathe. Lay it down, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in faith. Because the heart that forgives is the heart that finally becomes free. There was a time in my life when I thought motivation was the key to everything. If I felt inspired, I would act. If I felt ready, I would begin. If I felt confident, I would commit. And on those days, I didn't feel those things. I waited, days turned into weeks, weeks into years, and dreams quietly learned how to survive without me. That's when I understood something uncomfortable but transformative. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect in motion. Most people don't fail because they aren't talented enough. They fail because they keep negotiating with their future. I'll start when things calm down. I'll try again when I feel stronger. I'll be consistent when life is easier. But life doesn't get easier at first. You get stronger first. Discipline is what you choose when no one is watching. It's how you show up on ordinary days, not just emotional ones. It's the promise you keep to yourself when excuses feel convincing. And yes, discipline can feel uncomfortable because it asks you to do what your mind resists for the sake of the life your soul wants. I had to learn that discipline is not about intensity. It's about integrity. You don't need massive effort. You need repeated honesty. Honesty that says, I may be tired, but I will still show up. I may be scared, but I will still try. I may not see results yet, but I will stay consistent. There were mornings I didn't feel powerful. There were nights I doubted everything. But discipline taught me something motivation never could. Confidence is built, not found. Every small promise you keep becomes evidence. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Evidence that you are reliable. Evidence that you are becoming someone stronger than your moods. And when you trust yourself, everything changes. You stop waiting for permission. You stop needing external validation. You stop quitting on yourself mid-journey. Discipline also teaches humility because it reminds you that greatness is not glamorous most days. It's repetitive, it's quiet, it's often lonely, but it is effective. People admire the finish line, but they never see the daily discipline that got you there. The early mornings, the lonely decisions, the sacrifices no one applauded. That's why discipline feels invisible, until suddenly it isn't. Until one day you look back and realize you are no longer the same person who once struggled to begin. And here's the truth we don't talk about enough. Discipline is an act of self-love. It's saying, I respect my future enough to do the hard thing today. I value my calling enough to stay consistent when it's boring. I believe in my purpose enough to protect my time and energy. You don't need to punish yourself into discipline. You need to care about yourself enough to commit, because discipline without compassion becomes cruelty. But discipline with self-respect becomes freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from starting over again and again. And don't wait to feel confident before you become disciplined. Discipline creates confidence. It teaches you that you can rely on yourself even on your worst days, that you don't fall apart when emotions fluctuate, that your commitment is deeper than your comfort. 2026 doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs a consistent one. Show up tired, show up unsure, show up imperfect, but show up because every disciplined choice you make today is quietly building the life you'll thank yourself for tomorrow. And one day, without realizing when it happened, you stand stronger, steadier, more grounded, not because life became easier, but because you learned how to honor yourself through discipline. That's not pressure, that's power. There was a season when I thought gratitude was something you practiced only when life was kind, when prayers were answered quickly, when plans worked out, when joy came easily. But life has a way of teaching you deeper lessons. Because some of the most important gratitude I've ever felt was born in moments when nothing made sense. When survival felt like the only achievement, when getting out of bed was the victory, when breathing through the day required strength no one could see. That's when I realized gratitude is not denial of pain. It is recognition of grace within it. You don't have to be happy to be grateful. You just have to be honest. Honest enough to say, this hurts and I'm still here. This didn't work out and I'm still standing. This broke me, but it didn't finish me. There were days I had nothing to celebrate externally, no wins, no applause, no clarity, but I had breath. I had lessons. I had a heart that still hoped, even quietly, and that was enough to begin again. Gratitude doesn't shrink your ambition, it stabilizes it. When you're grateful, you stop chasing from desperation. You stop running from fear. You stop measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. You begin to move with grounding instead of panic. I've learned that ungrateful ambition is exhausting. It's always hungry, always anxious, always convinced it's behind. But grateful ambition is patient. It understands timing. It respects the process. When you thank God for how far you've come, you stop rushing the journey ahead. You realize that growth is not a race. It's a relationship between effort and trust. Gratitude shifts your posture. Instead of saying, why hasn't this happened yet? You begin to say, look at everything that had to align for me to be here. And suddenly, survival turns into strength. Scars turn into proof. Waiting turns into preparation. There's a quiet confidence that comes from gratitude. Not the loud kind that needs validation, but the deep kind that knows it will be okay. Because gratitude reminds you of something powerful. You have been carried before. You've made it through nights you thought would break you. You've survived chapters you didn't think had an ending. You have endured moments where the only thing holding you together was faith. And yet, here you are. That's not luck. That's grace. Gratitude also protects you from bitterness, because bitterness grows when you focus only on what was taken, not on what was preserved. Pain may have changed you, but it didn't erase you. You still have your voice, your values, your ability to love, your capacity to dream again. Gratitude doesn't say, everything happened for a reason. Sometimes things just happen. Gratitude says, I will not let what happened define my spirit. It's choosing to see the lesson without glorifying the loss. It's choosing meaning without minimizing the hurt. And that choice is powerful. When you live from gratitude, you stop fearing that what's meant for you will miss you. You understand this truth deeply. What is meant for you will find you, not because you rushed, but because you are ready. Gratitude prepares your heart to receive without fear, to succeed without arrogance, to grow without forgetting where you came from. And maybe today gratitude feels forced. Maybe joy feels distant. Maybe all you can say is, I'm still here. That's okay. Start there. Because one day you'll look back at this season and realize that gratitude didn't change your circumstances overnight. It changed you. It taught you patience. It taught you humility. It taught you how to walk forward without resentment. And when gratitude leads the way, even the waiting becomes holy. Even the silence becomes meaningful. Even the struggle becomes part of the story you'll one day be proud to tell. So thank God not just for the breakthrough, but for the breath. Not just for the victory, but for the strength to keep going. Because the heart that practices gratitude is never truly empty. There was a time when I thought being good meant being available. Being kind meant saying yes. Being strong meant carrying everyone else's weight without complaint. And for a while, people applauded that version of me. They called it generosity. They called it love. They called it sacrifice. But slowly, quietly, I started disappearing. I was showing up everywhere except for myself, giving from a place that was already empty, smiling while my spirit was exhausted. That's when I learned one of the most difficult truths of growth. Service without boundaries is not love, it's self-abandonment. You were not created to pour endlessly until there's nothing left. You were created to give from overflow. There is a difference. Serving from fullness feels grounded. It feels intentional. It feels aligned. Serving from exhaustion feels resentful. It feels forced. It feels like survival disguised as kindness. And I had to be honest with myself. Some of my giving wasn't generosity. It was fear. Fear of disappointing people. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being seen as selfish if I chose myself. But here's the truth. No one teaches you early enough. You cannot save everyone, and it is not your responsibility to. Not every call is yours to answer. Not ever. Why problem is yours to solve. Not every person deserves access to your energy. Your energy is sacred. When you are constantly drained, you don't become more useful. You become less present. Faith showed me this gently. Even God rested, not because he was tired, but because rest is wisdom. Rest is not weakness, it's obedience to your humanity. I had to learn how to pause without guilt, how to say no without explaining myself, how to choose silence over overextending. And yes, some people didn't like it. Some people benefited from my lack of boundaries. Some people confuse access with entitlement. But the ones meant to stay, they understood. Serving from fullness means you listen to your body. It means you protect your peace. It means you don't confuse urgency with importance. It means you ask yourself, am I giving because I'm called or because I'm afraid? That question changes everything, because when you serve from wholeness, your presence heals, your words land deeper, your actions come from love, not obligation. You stop giving to be needed. You start giving because you are able. And that shift is powerful. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with wisdom. They allow the right people in and keep chaos out. They don't make you cold. They make you clear. Clear about what you can offer. Clear about what you can't. Clear about what costs too much. You don't have to burn yourself to keep others warm. You don't have to explain your limits to people who refuse to respect them. Your life is not a donation box. When you protect your energy, protect your purpose. Because exhaustion clouds discernment, and discernment is everything. The world doesn't need a drained version of you performing kindness. It needs a healed version of you living in truth, a version that knows when to step forward and when to step back, a version that understands that saying no to others, sometimes saying yes to God's work within you. And if this season is teaching you to slow down, to rest, to choose yourself without apology, listen. That is not selfishness, that is stewardship. You're learning how to carry your calling without crushing your soul, how to serve without losing yourself, how to love without depletion. And when you enter the next chapter of your life like this, whole, rested, aligned, your service will be pure, your impact will be deeper, your joy will be real, because the most powerful service comes from a heart that is not exhausted, but anchored. There are seasons when faith feels effortless, when signs are everywhere, when doors open quickly, when answers arrive right on time. And then there are seasons when faith is quiet, no fireworks, no clear direction, no reassuring confirmation, just silence and a choice. I used to believe that faith meant certainty, that if I was truly aligned, I would always feel confident, that if something was meant for me, it would arrive without resistance. Life gently corrected that belief. Faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is movement in spite of it. Some of the most important steps I've taken in my life were taken with shaking hands and a praying heart. Because faith doesn't always say, I know exactly where this leads. Sometimes it says, I don't, but I trust who's walking with me. There were moments when I asked for clarity and received only courage. Moments when I wanted certainty and received only strength for the next step. And I had to learn that this too was grace. Because faith is not about seeing the whole staircase. It's about taking the step that's lit. You don't need the full map to move forward. You need obedience to what you know right now. Faith is choosing to walk even when the path is quiet, even when no one is cheering, even when the outcome is unclear. Especially then, silence doesn't mean abandonment. It often means preparation. Some seasons are quiet because you are being shaped, not showcased. Because if everything made sense immediately, you wouldn't need faith at all. Faith stretches you. It asks you to release control. It invites you to trust timing instead of forcing outcomes. And that's hard, especially for driven hearts. We want progress we can measure, validation we can point to, proof we can explain. But faith asks for something deeper. Surrender doesn't mean passivity. It means alignment. It means doing your part diligently. While trusting that the rest is being handled beyond your sight, there were times when the path ahead felt lonely, when I questioned if I was moving too slowly or too boldly or in the wrong direction entirely. But looking back now, I see it clearly. Every quiet step was strengthening my discernment. Every unanswered prayer was refining my trust. Every delay was protecting me from something I couldn't yet see. Faith matures you. It teaches you patience without bitterness, hope without attachment, confidence without arrogance. It reminds you that you are not walking alone, even when it feels that way. And here's what faith whispers when the world is loud with fear. What's meant for you will not miss you. You don't have to chase what's aligned. You don't have to force what's destined. You don't have to rush what requires readiness. Faith allows you to move forward without panic, to wait without losing belief, to trust without seeing evidence yet. And maybe right now you're in a season of quiet, no applause, no clarity, just the feeling that something is forming, but not visible yet. Stay. Don't retreat just because the noise stopped. Don't doubt your calling just because the road narrowed. Some paths get quiet because they are sacred. This is where roots grow. This is where strength deepens. This is where faith becomes personal. Walk anyway. Walk with integrity. Walk with humility. Walk with courage that doesn't need permission. Because when you finally step into what you've been preparing for, you'll realize something powerful. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of becoming, and you were never lost. You were being led, so as you move forward, not just into a new year, but into a new version of yourself, carry this truth gently, firmly, faithfully. You don't need to see the whole road to take the next faithful step. Just walk with trust, with patience, with faith. Because what's ahead of you requires the strength you built when you kept walking, even when the path was quiet. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified by what you survived. Every tear taught you something. Every delay prepared you quietly. Every closed door protects you more than you know. Don't carry guilt into a future that requires faith. Don't drag fear into a season that demands courage. Lay it down. Every regret, every resentment, every doubt, because God does not call the ready. He readies the call. Walk forward even if your voice shakes. Trust, even if the road feels uncertain. Show up, even if all you have is belief. What is meant for you is not chasing you. It is waiting for you to become who you need to be to receive it. So step into the new chapter. A lighter, stronger, more anchored than before. Don't just hope for a better year. Live like you believe it's already been prepared. And when fear whispers, let faith answer. The same God who carried you through the storm will meet you on the other side of it. Walk on. Your future is not fragile. It is held.